Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And originally today I wanted to do a breakdown in some way or another of, characters to get to level 70 versus characters to not get to level 70. I thought of doing a video where I talked about characters that I didn't really feel like got a huge jump from level 60 to level 70, like Sabretooth, like Ronin, obviously characters like Shuri, but I've talked about those already. And then I thought about doing another video, or perhaps in the same video, talking about characters that do get a lot from their level 70, but I couldn't really think of a good way of presenting it. And of course, there is still a difference between just getting a character to level 70 like this, or maybe like this, and actually getting a character to level 70 and upgrading their gears past 20. Like, for example, Bishop is 22, 25, 22, 25. Minerva is also, well, she's somewhere around here. Minerva is also leveled up past, she's 22 or 25 on all of her gears. So there is a big difference there, but I do think that in the larger scheme of things, I think it's just important to have that conversation in general. So I may work on some sort of document, some sort of spreadsheet, some sort of list or thing like that in the future to try to aggregate or try to put characters into different lists in terms of like must-have level 70s versus kind of so-so level 70s, and then characters that you don't really need to level 70 at all. But rather than doing that right now, I thought it would be better to just go through basically as many different ideas that I can come up with off the top of my head for why you would or wouldn't get a character to level 70. So let's start with the reasons why you would get a character to level 70. And again, it's assuming that you have the resources for it. Not only do you have the gold, but you have the black antimatter or the chaos nordstones or the phoenix feathers Emkron crystals. And then of course you have the biometrics. The biometrics is by far the most expensive part of getting that character from level 60 to level 70. So you really need to take stock of how many bios you have and how many expendable bios you have, and then you need to realize that you're probably not playing enough World Boss Invasion like Cynicalex told you, and you have to go play more of that. But assuming you have the resources and you want to take characters up to level 70, obviously like the first reason why you would take a character up to level 70 is if you want to tier 3 them, because that is immediately a prerequisite that you have to achieve. So every tier 3 character, the ones I have, plus Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Black Panther, RIP, they would need to be level 70 before you could get them to tier 3. So if you have any plans in the future of tier 3ing Doctor Strange, you're going to have to get him to level 70 first. If you have any plans, Captain America, so on and so forth. That's the first one. That's pretty much the easiest one. I think the second easiest reason to justify taking a character to level 70 is if you use them or you plan on using them heavily in PvP. And now it's something that's a little bit more difficult to illustrate or express, but I saw it before with Strife, and much more recently we've documented it on the videos with Dr. Doom, where at level 60 he just cannot compete. He doesn't hit hard enough against level 70s, and he does not, he can't take a punch. He can't survive against level 70s either. Jean Grey may be the one character in the game that doesn't fall into this category, but she's always been an exception to every rule, guard break immunity. But overall, I think the vast majority of characters take a huge leap in terms of how good they can be when you get them to level 70, and that is even without their gears upgraded to 25. Now in Dr. Doom's case, I did upgrade his gears, but at first I didn't. I just brought him to level 70, and I saw a huge uptick in his value specifically for timeline battle, and I assume it extends to things like Conquest and Alliance Tournament as well. So I think that would be the second biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons why you would take a character to level 70. The third reason why you would take a character to level 70 is obviously because you really like them and you want them to be as strong as they can be. Getting the character to level 70, while it is a pretty expensive cost, it basically doesn't do very much for their stats. It doesn't do very much for their, overall power level besides those two things that I just mentioned, but it does allow you the opportunity to further enhance them. Not only does it allow you to get their gears up to 25, which will give you a bunch of additional stat bonuses, but I think the biggest one is that the fourth gear can be upgraded to now give you a very flexible 2077. It's up to 2077 points in one of, I think it's like 8 different stats. And that's a very meaningful bump. And so for a lot of characters that I build for specific niche roles, whether it's for specific timeline fights or whether it's for specific world boss battles, I usually upgrade their first gear for their attack stat so they can punch a little bit harder, but I always go for the fourth gear as well. And so in Bishop's case, I brought it to 25 because I want as much of that fourth skill as I can get. And so giving you that additional flexibility, especially let's say if the character doesn't have a uniform, you really need that additional skill cooldown or that additional ignore defense, or you're playing with the character and you really feel like they're almost fast enough, but they just don't have enough attack speed and you don't have the Urus for it, or you don't want to farm for them, so you give them attack speed. And having that flexibility for that specific character versus, you know, you don't have enough attack speed, so you're going to try to change your cards. That's a really big thing. That's a really big change to try to make, and you could screw it up. Whereas, you know, it's only for one character versus being for 194 characters, but if you make that upgrade and you can get that gear even just to 22, it doesn't have to go to 25, you're getting an additional 500. It moves from 1077, which is the baseline value, or sorry, 1180, excuse me, I don't know why I said 1077. It goes from 1180 to 1585, so you get about 400 points. That's not bad. That's more than 1% increase in every single stat, even for the lowest stats, i.e. attack speed. So for attack speed, it's only about a 1% increase, which is not much, but for other stats, it's actually a lot more. It can be like 2% or 2.5%. I think for like crit damage, it's almost, it might be 3%. I think it's 133 stat points per 1%. So I don't know the math on that, but it's a little bit more. It's almost 4% actually for crit damage. So it can be a meaningful upgrade. So I think those reasons are probably among the best to get characters to level 70. I don't see a huge upswing in a character's PvE value, taking them from level 60 to level 70. It may also be worthwhile to get characters to level 70 for ABX if you want a slightly higher score. That does tend to help a little bit, but you're not going to see as much of a jump compared to when you take them to level 70 and you push their gears to 25, or at least a couple of them, a few of them, to 25. Now I also want to talk about the reasons why you shouldn't take a character to level 70. And I think this is something that a lot more people need to be mindful of, because we see it a lot. We see it a lot when we do the roast videos. People tell me and complain a lot about how they can't get all these characters to level 70. Well, you know, on the one hand, you're not really supposed to get all the characters to level 70 unless you're spending tons of cash on the game, or you're spending crystals to refresh your energy to play a bunch of world boss invasion. Like, there's just no way, and farm story missions, there's no way to farm up enough bios normally. Just a normal player, even if you're doing all the content every day, there's no way you're going to get enough to upgrade new characters and upgrade existing characters that get added. Like, I mean, look at all these characters that got added to level 70. Lizard, Rhino, Sandman, Vulture, you know, like 5 or 6 characters on top of the new characters got their level 70. That's, you know, just let's say 5 characters. That's over 10,000 biometrics that you needed to farm up from one update to another. That's crazy, right? You're farming more than 300 bios per day in a month, if that's how long it takes you since the last update. Right? And that's assuming you had any biometrics left over after you got Jean Grey to level 70, because she costs double. Or the update before that, Thanos, he costs even more than double. It's more than 5,000 bios. So it's pretty insane. And so I think that's kind of the first thing to realize, is that if you're just going to take a character to level 70 just to take them to level 70, maybe you should reconsider it. There's not a huge bump that they get for PvE going from level 60 to level 70. I know that it looks nice, and I know that it increases your growth score, which is another reason to take a character to level 70. I know I'm supposed to be doing the opposite right now, but the growth score is really dependent on getting them to level 70 ASAP. But I think, you know, if you just don't have the resources, you don't have the investment material to get them to level 70, there are a lot of characters that you could skip. And I think the biggest thing to recognize, or the biggest thing to use as a resource, is the tier list. It doesn't necessarily have to be my tier list, but using a tier list and seeing, okay, is the character considered by a large portion of the community to be like really good, like legendary or S tier or A tier? No. If they're not S tier or A tier, there's a good chance you don't need to take them to level 70. If you're only ever going to use them in World Boss Ultimate, if you're only ever going to use them as a striker, let's say you're getting Weapon Hex and you just have her at tier 1 because you're free to play or whatever, well, if you're going to get her at tier 1, you're not going to get her to level 70 anyways. But you know, even if you somehow manage to get her to tier 2, you use crystals to upgrade her gears or whatever, you may not want to take her to level 70 if you're only ever going to use her for striking. Another example of a character that can't get to level 70 yet, but will be able to eventually, sometime this year maybe, Venom. Again, I'm only using him for World Boss Ultimate striking, so unless he gets a rework and he gets a new uniform, I won't be taking him to level 70. I'll only be taking him to level 62. I get characters to level 62 just so I can separate them from the rest of my roster. But you can see even someone like me who spends hundreds of dollars on a month on this game has a bunch of characters that I haven't taken to level 70 because I just can't afford it. I'm just going to blow through all my resources and I'm not going to be prepared for the next update. So, you know, generally speaking, the characters that I haven't got to level 70 are lower on the power scale. Some of these characters I really like Thing or Ronin or Crystal, and I do want to take them to level 70, She-Hulk, but I just have more pressing issues. I'm prioritizing characters who I'm going to tier 3, like Jean Grey and Doctor Strange or whatever. I'm prioritizing characters that I need for ABX, like Molten Man, Electro, or I'm prioritizing characters that I'm just really interested in making new additional content on or seeing their upper limit. But if you're really not going to push a character's upper limit, like you're not going to push them to a high stage, you're not going to be using them primarily, like you're getting them to tier 2 for their leadership or for their tier 2 passive as a buff. Let's say someone like Nick Fury. If you're not going to use him in PvP, there's really no reason to get him to level 70 if he's only going to be a support in leadership. If you're going to actually use him to kill Proxima for World Boss or something like that, great. But if not, probably best to just leave it and save those resources. And I don't think I've spent enough time lately, advocating for you guys to save your resources, to hoard. You know, 2 or 3 years ago, Cynicalex would have been like, stop spending your resources. You don't need tier 2 Sharon Rogers. So I'm here once again saying you probably don't need that level 70 Corvus. And so what I want to do to just end this off, because I don't think I've done the most eloquent, you know, speech for why you shouldn't level 70 a character. What I want to do instead is give you all of the characters that I level 70'd that I would probably refund if I could. Okay, these are characters that I just don't use, or I feel they just don't have a strong enough place in the game in terms of their power level to be used. Now, some of these might be in the legendary tier, but because I have every character, and I have almost every character close to max in terms of their power level, I just don't need to even trifle with the lower end legendary tier characters unless I'm forced to, like someone, for example, Magneto. So if I could refund, I probably would refund Corvus, Glaive, Cull Obsidian, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight. Going down the list, I would probably refund Colossus. I'd probably refund Warpath. I would probably refund Jubilee. I would probably refund Domino and Phantom X. I'd probably refund Nightcrawler as well. I would probably refund Agent Venom and Black Panther and Groot. Oh, hell yeah. I'd probably refund Nebula. Now, I wouldn't necessarily refund all of these characters simultaneously, but if I had 0 resources, for example, probably would have been the case if they suddenly decided to divide by 2 the number of Black Antimatter and Chaos Nornstones you get from World Boss Ultimate. I would probably refund my level 70 of Star-Lord and Arachnite, possibly Black Panther, to be honest with you guys, definitely Shuri, possibly Iron Hammer, probably Loki. And then from there, the level 66 and stuff, yeah, not too much. But you can see there's a ton of characters there that I would either definitely refund or probably refund, and maybe there were more that I just kind of hesitated on for the last minute. So with that being said, I hope that this has been kind of helpful to you guys in one way or another, whether you're looking for reasons to level 70 a character or reasons to not level 70 a character or more than one. If you guys want to see something more like a list, although I do think it will be difficult to translate into something that's ranked or something that's kind of, you know, put into a good or bad category, I will do my best to try to whip something like that up for you. But if there's not enough support for it, don't worry, I'll move on to something else that's more important and more pressing and more helpful. Or more fun, I guess. That's always important too. So anyways, hit me up in the comments down below, join the Discord, hit me up on Twitter, subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Take care.